Thank you. We had to think about how to use the pop of color in our group to our advantage.
Oh, I'm the pop.
Yes. All right, so excited. Thank you guys for coming. Thank you so much to this incredible team of industry leaders. We've had so much fun just chatting about the biz over the last couple weeks. But we're going to really dive into winning the fight for consumer attention. And this group in particular, I'll let them introduce themselves, has such a great multi-perspective. They're not all coming from the same place, represent different parts of our industry, different types of companies, so it should be a great discussion. I'll introduce myself first. Meredith Brace. I think I just ruined my mic. I am the CMO at Samba TV. We are a leading television technology company, so what we really do is think about who's out there watching what across screens, how to take advantage of that, package that up into audiences, measurement. Very exciting stuff and lots to talk about. So take it on, Craig.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. Craig Stimmel. I lead sales and partnerships for the WWE. We're basically an in-house shop as well. So we have our own creative team, we have our own planning team, we have our own activation team. So everything that goes along with any sort of partnership at the WWE.
Awesome. I'm Andrea Zapata. I'm the EVP, Head of Research, Data, and Insights for Warner Brothers Discovery, a recently merged company of Legacy Warner Media and Discovery itself. We're 28 networks. We are everything from CNN to HBO Max to How to Roast a Chicken with Ina Garten on the Food Network. I'm really happy to be here. Awesome.
Hey, what's up, everyone? I'm Lars. I work at Initiative, one of the IPG companies. My role at Initiative is to oversee what we call the communications design team. It's for the media planners in the room. It's our media planning discipline. Nice to see you all.
Hi guys, I'm Julie Green. I'm one of the sales directors at TikTok based here in New York. Hopefully you all know what TikTok is and I don't have to describe it, but if you don't have the app, definitely get it and check it out.
I've already yelled at you for how much time I spent on TikTok. It's late into the evening. All right, so Samba TV, we're going to kick this off with some research that we did with HarrisX. And we conducted research saying that for the first time ever, a majority of US adults no longer report having a linear subscription. And I know we've been talking about these trends in television for a long time, but that's a pretty alarming number. I planned media for a very long time in my past history, and linear television was always our bedrock. That's what you lay down first before you did everything else. So how, from your perspective, when you think about the audience and consumer landscape and how much it's been shifting over the years, but in the last 24 months specifically, what have you seen that really kind of you want to call out?
Take off. You want to start with me?
I'll start with you.
You're looking at me?
You're smiling the biggest.
Yeah, so, it's interesting. WWE linear TV is a bedrock for us. We do 7 hours of live content a week on Raw and SmackDown, USA and Fox, and then we also supplant that with a lot of digital outreach. So I think you think of WWE and you think of WrestleMania and you think of the big events, but we actually have an omni-channel presence, and we've really tried to democratize our content. And our content team has done a phenomenal job between the TV broadcast team and our digital team, and what you start to notice is we're trying to move our content to where people are at today. So that could be on Raw and SmackDown on cable TV. It could be on Peacock for our big PLEs, or it could be on TikTok, where we're the #1 sports channel with 18 million followers. So I think it's great to call out winning the fight for attention, but we're also trying to go to wherever the eyeballs are and meet that person with the content that they want to see on the platform.
Right.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think it's not an either or. At the end of the day, as content creators, we need to be where consumers and viewers are. They dictate at the end of the day, right? And so with Warner Brothers Discovery, I'm still learning this. We invest billions of dollars in some of the best storytelling and content out there, and we will exist in a linear environment because that is where live and simultaneous reach happens like that. It's where television, when you talk about the foundation and the bedrock, 80 million homes is still a big deal. And the ability to actually get a message out there in a short window of time, you'd be hard-pressed to find something better than linear television. But it goes back to linear television is going to evolve into another space, and we will be there. And we have Discovery Plus, we have HBO Max, we're going to be combining those, and we're everything in between in a mobile or on a tablet device. So I think I sit squarely in the world of measurement. So for me, the bigger conundrum isn't just, it's of course the responsibility, and you're a good steward of putting content where viewers want to watch it. But it comes back to how do you want to measure it? How do you want to count it? How do you want to attribute effectiveness? And ultimately, that defines attention in a way that is a KPI for a marketer to invest more in our house.
Do you feel like, I'm going to do a follow-up on that one. Do you feel like you have more choices than ever, or do you feel like you don't have the right choices that you need?
From a measurement
From a
perspective,
measurement
I think we're building it right now. I think there was a time, oh, that's right, this time last year, basically, where one of the biggest measurement partners out there lost their accreditation. And while I think we all knew as an industry that we needed to diversify how we count, first and foremost, and then how we actually measure effectiveness had to change. And so at Warner Brother Discovery, and I would say my friends at NBCU and at Paramount, we are building the roadmap, the blueprint to how to think about going outside of a panel-based only measurement to thinking about big data. And I'm sure we'll talk about that. But it goes back to data. Data will help us, help inform media planning tactics in a better way. And I think the future is bright for it.
Right. Lars, what are you seeing? in
Well,
the
listen, I was going to say, we talk about fragmentation almost as if it's a negative. I'm not so sure it is. Look, it's a free market. We have more opportunity from a planning standpoint to make better decisions on where to put our clients' dollars, how to invest in things that are performing. So we have access to more information to make better, more precise decisions. I think, from our standpoint, as an agency, we have the benefit of sitting at the center of a lot of these things. So we can kind of see, we see the fragmentation coming at us, but then for us, it represents an opportunity to kind of, adapt, create new ways of thinking. And I think that's where we're going moving into 2023. We need a new way of approaching the marketplace, integrating all the measurement, talking about how the role of content and how the role of social is all coming together to kind of move people along. So I think it's exciting.
Do you think your clients are receptive to big changes and swings?
Yes and no. I mean, it depends on the client. I think the one uniform truth is that most clients understand that the thing like adapting and changing and being versatile and what I'm seeing is more openness and willingness to test new things, right? And to kind of lean into things that maybe don't have all the T's crossed and I's dotted, all the information that you would normally have to make a decision, because that stuff is still nascent, it's still growing. So clients are leaning in more to test.
Great. Julie, you are a disruptor. You are disrupting this industry single-handedly as a company. So tell me, from where you sit, what have you seen in the last 2 years?
Yeah, I mean, I think, Lars, what you're speaking to is really a lot of what we're embracing at TikTok, which is this ability for marketers to really embrace new ways of thinking, of experimentation, of creativity. And, so we do have users' attention at TikTok. Like, we know that we have that. Users are spending a movie's length of time every day on average within TikTok. And so it's an incredible place to be where marketers can, experiment. They can create, an organic space where they can really almost test like a creative playground. And so the marketers who are really leaning into that strategy are winning on TikTok, and we're seeing that openness is really driving their results.
Love it. Okay, I'm going to get into a new question here. What's the biggest challenge you face today, and why is it measurement? No, just kidding. It doesn't have to be about measurement. What is your biggest challenge you see today? And we'll start with you this time.
I think it actually goes back to something that, Lars, you were sort of touching on, or the question you had, which is the winning of hearts and minds to do something differently, right? Not everyone's going to do it tomorrow. It's not like we turn on the lights to new measurement, bigger data, smarter algorithms, more sort of spaces for attention. It's really about, can we rethink the ad formats? Can we rethink what kind of ad experience do we want to have in certain kinds of environments? And maybe it's not going to be 5 to 7 ads per pod. Maybe it's going to be 1 or 2, really smart, right? Because it goes back to what are your KPIs and how do we impact from the upper down to the lower funnel, and how do we think about that media mix? But really, I hate to say this, that I'm sitting squarely in the land of research. When you say we're not going to use the incumbent, or we will use the incumbent, and I call them the incumbent, in a go forward, but they might not be the end all be all. I find that researchers and even the planning and pricing, everything that has been built around it, it's almost like they're so precious about how they've done things for so long. And it goes back to spreadsheets. It goes back to what you know. It goes back to the idea that you're going to have to kind of reinvent the wheel, or as a person on my team says a lot, we hear this a lot, you're flying a plane at the same time you're building parts of it, right? And so I think getting comfortable with the uncomfortable has been one of the biggest challenges. It's not because we lack data. It's not because we don't have interactability. It's not because we don't have great content and the ability to reach people in a meaningful way. It's because we've done things a certain way for so long, and we've got to break that box.
Yeah, great. Lars, anything to add there?
Look, the language is changing in terms of like, you know, a couple years ago when we talked about video, it was mainly linear TV, its ratings. The formula and the equation was simple. Now it's a lot more complex. There's more terms like, you know, load speed, frames per second, you know, all the different standards by which we are able to define an impression. You know, the definition of an impression is the same, but how you define an impression is different. So one of the biggest challenges that we're actively looking to solve for is just, you know, standardizing, humanizing the language to make it a little bit less scary so that people can understand it. You know, working with different partners to kind of normalize it, I think is.
I mean, Craig, you guys have live events, you have multiple distribution partners, you have so many platforms, so many different ways of engaging your audience. How do you think about, you know, what's the challenge for you in that?
Yeah, it's you know, it's similar with you know, what Andrea said around getting comfortable and uncomfortable. You know, there's not necessarily one bucket of planning dollars when you think about the WWE where you go, oh, here's where this makes sense, right? We actually can flow that across the board. So when you think about the fact that we have the 7th highest ranked YouTube channel with 70 billion views, you wouldn't think that with the WWE. You wouldn't think that we did, you know, a 1.8 rating on Raw on Monday night, right? But these elements all overlay, and then when you start to think about how can I go find our consumer actually isn't who you think they are, right? We have 32% of our audience are female, nearly 30% are Hispanic, nearly 20% are African American. So we start to fill in the gaps of where, you know, we can really be helpful on planning side, because we can come in and say, well, who is your audience? Where would you like to find them? And we can partner with Julie, or we can partner with USA, or we can partner across the board to make sure that we have the right audience fit.
Yeah, and then Julie, you guys have attention. I don't think anybody argues that you don't have a ton of attention right now with your people engaging with TikTok. Like, what is your challenge when you kind of have that active audience?
Yeah, I think we're at a really interesting sort of moment in time for the advertising industry in terms of measurement. You know, I think it's not just a challenge that's specific to TikTok, but the entire industry, and in this sort of post-IDFA world and potential, you know, cookieless future, we have to figure out, like, what does that mean? And I think that we've become so used to, you know, just a spreadsheet, like you said, and like a mathematic answer that tells you, you know, was this successful or was it not? And I think we're sort of at this moment where we can put our marketing hats back on and think about like what actually resonates with users, and what do I personally enjoy as a user myself, and how do I want to create an experience that is really meaningful and connects in that authentic way. So I think it's going to sort of land us in this place that's a little bit in the middle, right, of like a lot of the math and then a lot of the art as well. So that art and science balance, I think, is what we all have to redefine as we move forward in a world where we really want to protect user privacy and data and all of the things.
Absolutely. Okay, so what's a mindset for this industry that we should stop doing?
Polished and perfect.
Like it.
That's my answer.
Anybody?
Yeah, which is,
I think maybe instead of stop is like, I love a lot of the best brand partnerships that we've done on our side have been very authentic, right? Like you look at something like a Victoria beer, which is the, you know, Mexico's oldest beer. They partnered with Rey Mysterio, who has a deep Hispanic background, and it was a luchador. So we created a mask that was, you know, based around that. Like I like the idea of moving authenticity a little bit further up the pike. So less polished and perfect, a little more authentic, I think is.
Anything?
I would say, look, again, from the media planner, we are starting to change the conversation away from just proxy metrics. Like, you know, if you think about reach, GRP, like they're proxy metrics, they're opportunities. We're moving more to performance metrics, the outcomes. We'll talk about attention metrics and things that are being done to quantify attention. But just thinking in the old terms of reach, GRP, CPMs, it's important. I'm not saying disregard it. It's important. It's the marketplace. It's not going to change. We have to evolve it, though.
I think there is something we were talking about backstage, and it's this idea that there's still always going to be the fundamentals, right? There's still going to be sort of the building blocks, the truth sets that we need in order to evaluate media and the investments that are placed across either our house at WBD or at TikTok, right? And I think as a marketer, they're thinking holistically about their investment. And I grew up in television. I left. I always joke I went to big data for a while, and I went to streaming for a while. But it always comes back to how many people are you reaching at any given time, and for how long? And then ultimately, where do you see sort of your media basically punching above its weight? And I think that if we can remember that it goes back to really awesome experiences like what you were just saying, the storytelling, to this really authentic place where people are searching. I mean, your algorithm, we hear this all the time, it is scary on how much it knows me and my desire to love color and lipstick. It is insane. But I will tell you that, but then it goes back to, I'm still gonna come back to television because there's a big Yankee game. That's right, tonight on live television, right? And there's gonna be this moment, we have wrestling on our platform as well. And I think our again, speaking more with clients, speaking closer with marketers, understanding ultimately, what are they trying to solve for? Because I like to joke, we've got one of the best hands, man. You want massive reach, we got massive reach. You want some data in that linear, we can get you to conversion, right? You want to be in a really light ad load because you want to really have your ad stand out in a streaming environment like HBO Max, covered. How much do you want to spend, and how do we allocate that across our house, I think is where we're getting really good at, as opposed to having all these silos of being like, well, here's where you buy your Bleacher Report, and here's where you buy your HGTV, and here's where you potentially can buy that scary thing called programmatic, right? And I think ultimately the fundamentals, though, will bring it all back together, and that's the boring GRP sometimes, or the impression. I know.
I didn't say this was important.
But yeah.
You got to
It's getting
stack
us
more
there.
stuff onto it.
Yes, I agree.
I was waiting for someone to say that we're going to get rid of the GRP. As you think about 2023, what are you most excited about? Like, what do you think will be disruptive in the space, too? Anybody?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm excited about just some of the new products that we've launched in the last month or two, and even just this last week at TikTok World, which was our summit where we kind of unveiled some of our new products. And I think one of the things that we've been trying to figure out at TikTok is like, how do we really capture the magic of what's happening from a cultural perspective? So, if 10 or 15 years ago, the advertising space was kind of trying to figure out what digital transformation meant, it feels like today we're trying to figure out what cultural transformation means. And we feel like that is what is happening on TikTok, are these moments of connection and that cultural transformation. And so how can we leverage that to create ad experiences that tie into that allow advertisers to then leverage, that moment? And so products like Pulse, which we launched just within the last, few weeks out of beta, are allowing advertisers to really kind of align with those moments and the trends as they're happening in real time. And so I think you're going to see more of that from us as we kind of move into the next year, ways to really capture what is unique and differentiated about TikTok.
Awesome. Anybody else?
Yeah, no, I think, for me, it goes back to something that ties all of us together, which was content, right? If you follow the WWE at all, you know that Paul Levesque, who used to go as Triple H when he was in his superstar days, has just taken over as our chief content officer. And some of the things that he's been able to spark and do, for example, we just brought a superstar back from semi-retirement, Bray Wyatt. And the way we did that was we teased all the way along through all of our content with different Easter eggs in the programming. Could be social, could be on SmackDown, could be on Raw, could be anywhere, but it was cluing people in to look in a deeper manner. And at one point we had flashed a QR code up which took you away to a website that we had programmed, and 20,000 people went in less than like 2 minutes. It's wild that people are looking for that connection, and they're looking for that deeper integration with content in their life in a positive way. And I think that is something that we are really excited about for next year.
Good.
Yeah, what you're saying is what is why we wake up, right? It really is. And right now, being, again, so squarely in research with measurement, we're really still talking about the counting side of the house, and I cannot wait until we're done talking about sheer counting. But what I'm excited about for this coming year, though, is actually enabling the counting. And when I mean enabling, I mean standardizing some of the ways in which we think about the metrics, thinking about stewardship, so actually being able to go from a forecast to the post with different measurement companies, so it's actually a currency transaction, so enabling my sellers to be able to do transaction with a buyer. So that way, the next time we're on this stage, we are actually talking about how attention was measured, how it was attributed, and how potentially it goes back to the counting's the foundation. This is the icing. This is the cherry on top, and really it's what we all care about. But really standardizing a conversation around attention, I think, will be a really good thing. Once we get this whole counting thing, it's this little easy thing enabled.
Love it. And you see 2023 as
At WBD, yes.
awesome.
Do we?
If you have something to share.
Well, here's the thing. I think all this move to more performance-based, to more precision-based planning. We're using AI more at a scale basis. We're building more precise plans that target the highest value people that a brand or a client or a service it will go after to drive their business. I think that opens up opportunity for media planners to be more creative in how they think about using media channels. For example, a couple of years ago, you would sit here and say, to get a scale reach media plan to kind of hit my target audience, I need to use a diverse mix of media channels. Now, between ad products, between content plays, between all the different options in the video space, I can get that same reach using different tools. And I think that opens up new ways of doing things better. So to me, that's kind of cool.
Love it. You all represent amazing brands yourselves, and I'm sure we have brands in the audience. You help brands, world-class brands, tell their stories. What would be your advice to those brands in terms of how to best, capture attention, today and tomorrow?
I think, for me, one of the best things I've been at the WWE about 3 months now, and one of the best things I've seen is when you go to a live event, you'll see just a slew of people, and one of the best stats that I heard from our amazing D&I team is they said, 40% of people that are at an event are either with a child or a parent. And there's something to me that is, I go back to authenticity, and I go back to when we're able to make a connection with the consumer inside of a way that you deliver an experience, and that experience can be live, it can be on a TV, it can be on your phone, whatever it is. When you're able to deliver that experience and your brand message resonates through in what you've done, I think you've done it really, really well. And I hope for next year and what we're trying to do with the WWE, I hope that comes to life a little bit more, because when you get it right and it hits, it's really fun.
I have to say, I always smile because it goes back to that content and fandom, and when you really reach into sort of the heart, and it's cyclical, right? And I think we've done a lot of work around fans and sort of the passing down. We call them heirlooms, right? So it's this idea that you grew up with Sesame Street, or you grew up with, I think about all of the great things that we've built with Superman and Batman, and I still joke, our boys are 8 and 10. They don't actually watch a ton of Batman because it's a little dark, right? But what do they want to be for Halloween? They want to be Batman. They want to be Superman, right? And I think it's this idea that you just sort of touch into something that you have great pride on. There's nostalgia. You bring it on. You pass it forward, right? And then you allow brands in a smart way to really connect with that. There's a really great way in which we think about how do you measure. That's the responsibility that we have. We are great creators of storytelling and brands, and how do we, again, make sure that we are integrating in a way that's appropriate. But yes, I would say just be open to the fact that we still have to be precious sometimes, right, with our beautiful storytelling and content, our IP, but we also want to make sure that we're going to make an impact for the investment that you make with us. And we've seen it happen over and over. When there is a connection with the fan, it will resonate for years to come.
Well, and the ability to be able to measure that as well and prove that to people, it's great.
I think, look, trying to move away from the assembly line way of producing work more towards a laboratory way of doing work, where there's all these different little tiny experiments happening at the same time that you can learn from and draw inspiration from to kind of do something in a way that maybe you hadn't thought of, would be my advice. Create the cultures of collaboration, put different people in a room. More and more we're noticing when you get people who understand distribution, who understand the value of content and measurement, and you put them together with creative teams, magic can happen, because then now you're actively designing something for a space and a moment. And I think sometimes that gets lost because we're so, we're pushing to hit deadlines, we're going through the steps, we've been taught to go through the steps. Maybe it's okay not to go through all the steps sometimes.
Maybe
Yeah,
that's why you're,
I totally agree. So building on that, my advice is definitely to build for the platform on which you're running, right? Like in the case of TikTok, like build for TikTok. And we love to say don't make ads, make TikToks. But I don't think that it has to be hard, right? Like it can be scalable, it can be efficient, and it can still resonate with the users of the platform that you're on. And so I think that's where we are seeing advertisers really lean into the tools and the products that we've created. I mean, we have a TikTok creative exchange that allows advertisers to tap into subsidized creative costs so that they can access, creators at scale. There's a lot of ways to do this. We have advertisers like Motorola who have, not used a branded asset since 2021. They're only using creators. They've, I think leveraged over 25 creators in the last 6 months on TikTok. And so I think that just, trying to lean into those strategies of being really intentional with what you're doing on that specific platform is where, my advice would lie. So.
is that challenging for brands? Like take a brand that's been historically on television.
Yeah, I mean, I think to be honest,
Video.
in my experience, the bigger the brand, the harder that challenge is, because I think there's a lot of really successful brands out there that have, a formula and a way of doing things. And like you said, there's legacy businesses built around these ways of doing things. And, TikTok's a little bit different. The creative language is different. And so at the same time, there's this scale that we just can't deny, right? Like so many people are on TikTok every day spending an inordinate amount of time. So we want to find a way to really capture that moment and do it in a way that is effective. And, none of the views on TikTok for either content or ads are forced views. And so you want that creative to really resonate so that we can capture the attention when a user has the opportunity to interact. So, yeah,
Great.
I do think it's a challenge, but I think it's worth it.
Absolutely. Anybody up here creating TikToks that we should be following? Lars?
Well, I'm not allowed to say.
I find TikTok to be very personal, okay?
I know, that's why it's kind of funny. They'd be willing to share. Anyway, thank you guys so much for your thoughts. Super fun to be able to spend time with you and share your experiences with the rest of the people here.
Thank you.
All right.
Stage right.